Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee, with my best bud, Rodney Wilds. Also in Williamson County, see, he's a lender with First Bank, a big deal. He's a big deal around here and a good friend, and he knows how to get stuff done. And I'm glad to see you.
We're here.
It wouldn't be the Andy and Rodney show if we didn't come sliding in the last half a second, literally. So what's happening tomorrow? Any guesses what's going to transpire tomorrow?
I'm guessing that there's no big change in the maybe the rhetoric. Maybe he'll commit or say whatever his innuendos of future rate cuts. But I don't think there's going to be a rate cut tomorrow, just because it's status quo. I mean, there's nothing changed besides I guess maybe his boss wanting to fire him if he don't lower the rates.
And I'm just going to call it what it is. Just embarrassed the shit out of him the other day. Just humiliated the guy. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, he's looking at invoices, no pressure. Wow.
I mean, I don't know if I would like working for Mr. Trump myself. It would be, I don't think I'd last.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be like, no, I've got better things to do with my life than this. But
yeah, I mean, he works, 20 out of the 24 hours, and probably expects everybody else to do the same, Who knows?
Oh God. 100%. There is no doubt in my mind that's exactly what I expect. But all things being equal, I mean, the bottom line is stuff gets done. I mean, I don't think he's there to make friends, although he seems to beg for it from time to time. Oh God, I am excited about today's show. I tell you what, we've got. If you noticed from the beginning, the roller coaster, because that's what we're kind of headed towards that thing. Although it's stable currently, so I guess buckle up. That came from an article that I was reading, is the reason I put it in there. I thought it was pretty good. But I've got one article that talks about 30-year low, and Rodney brought an article about how California is doing really good, and so the one thing about Rodney for me is he really brings a positive balance to this thing, because I can sometimes get a little bit sideways. I'm not a crash guy, I'm not a Nick Gurley kind of that's the guy's name, Gurley. I would change that maybe, but at any rate, I don't scream crash all the time, but I'm smart enough. I can read, and stuff is happening. And I'm also smart enough, I think both of us are, that because what we do here, the whole premise of this show is just to have a conversation about what's going on. Do we have, am I an economic mind? No. Am I a professor in that? No. But I'm in the industry, and I'm active in the industry, and I know what's going on behind the scenes. The headlines that you see and the numbers that you see, everything that you see going on. I mean, Rodney does a ton of business, and he knows what's going on behind the scenes for the lending world, and the real estate world too, because that's what he plugs into. And so when we have these conversations, we may or may not take the headlines seriously, like the one I'm going to get to in a minute. It talks about a crash. There's no crash coming. I don't think so. But it's still got good advice couched within that. That's clickbaity, maybe a little. That's what these headlines are about most of the time, is getting your attention and then telling your perspective. Is that fair, Rodney, to put it that way?
Yeah. It's just a reality check.
That's it.
I mean, we're not professors or Lawrence Young or Powell or President Trump, but we are veterans of our industry, and we can see what reality is.
Yeah, and I can tell you what's going on, and too, I've got a sort of a summary in my head. That's the way I do this every week, And I've got some ideas on what buyers are going through now because I'm currently experiencing it, I mean, honestly. So let me dive into this first one, and it is called Home Sales May Fall to a new 30-year low in 2025 as mortgage rates remain elevated. Now, I will tell you that 30-year low, because of my age, the first thing I thought of was 1970.
It's not 60-year low.
Yeah, that's how old I am. This is
That's
actually
55 years.
that number goes back 30 years, is back to 1995. So for a lot of people that watch this show after the fact, you hadn't been born for another 10 years. So anyway, let me get through this. Home sales could fall to a new three-decade low in 2025 as elevated mortgage rates continue to crimp affordability, according to new projections from Realtor.com economic research team. Well, we always say that Realtor.com and companies like that, they tend to be optimistic. That's perfectly fine because they're in the industry and they'd rather put the spin on it's going to be okay, which it's going to be. But I always try to be clear about that. So the revised forecast predicts 30-year mortgage rates will remain higher than originally projected, averaging 6.7% across 2025, ending the year about 6.4. How do you feel about? Do you think that that's a good estimation, Rodney?
Ending this year at around 6.4.
Yeah, that's what Realtor.com is saying. Yeah, that's Lawrence.
It could definitely so. Definitely so. I mean, that's right around what projections are.
Yeah, and it says that's up from the initial forecast of 6.3 a full year average and 6.2 at year end. That's the initial forecast. And what we've learned over the years that we've been doing this is predictions. They come and they go and they change, and that's perfectly fine. So sales volume for existing homes previously projected to grow slightly this year compared with 2024 is now expected to fall 1.5% annually to just 4 million projections, 4 million transactions. Let me show you this. That's what this, I mean, it may be hard to see, but that's where we are in terms of existing home sales. And if you were looking at a graph and you saw that bottom end and it's projected to go further down, you'd think things are getting pretty slow. That's the reason I point that out. Okay, so that would mark the slowest year for existing home sales since 1995 when they registered 3.8 million. Remember, a couple of years ago, we were pushing in the mid fives. I mean, we almost thought we saw 6 million, didn't we, Rodney? Wasn't that like 2 or 3 years ago?
I'm not sure what the total was, but it was yeah,
Up there.
it was where we're 60% of where we were.
Yeah, it was up there. Home sales were also at their lowest since 1995 in both 23 and 24. So I mean, talk about a trend. Even with more homes on the market, buyer response has been remained muted compared to what we'd expect from similar supply shifts in the past, says Daniel Hale, the chief economist for Realtor.com. Lawrence Yun is NAR. Sorry, I got that confused. In regions like the South and West, inventory gains have been more substantial, but affordability constraints continue to weigh on demand. I tell you what's, let me make sure I've got this. Yeah, I'm going to finish this, and I've got a couple of thoughts on what's happening just to see. Despite an ongoing slump in sales, Realtor.com economists do not foresee an imminent national correction. I agree with that. But rather projected home prices will grow 2.5% through 2025. I think that's reasonable. It's slightly lower than the 3.7% growth they expected at the start of the year. Now, remember, a couple of years ago, the growth was outrageous compared to that. This is close to flat almost. I'm not really flat, but comparatively though. So rather than dropping their, I just thought this was so interesting. I'm going to ask you what you think of this. Rather than dropping their asking prices, many home sellers now appear to have opted to wait out the market. Realtor.com recently reported that delistings, and we talked about this a week or two ago, delistings surged 47% in May. Delistings is the idea when somebody puts their house on the market with an estimated in their head what they think it should sell for, and they're not getting any action or no offers that they can live with. They're just yanking it. Instead of lowering the price, they're just pulling out of the game compared to a year earlier, suggesting that sellers increasingly prefer to wait rather than negotiate. Have you and your other realtor friends that have listings that kind of get stale, has that been your discovery, or are you not part of that discussion usually?
Yeah, I mean, just this weekend, I had a realtor friend of mine that was talking about he had a property on the market and nothing for 60 days. But oddly, like within the last week, he's gotten, some activity on it. But it went a long time without anything. And that's what I am hearing that a lot. Like my listings are slow, very slow. And, applications are down. You can see that number there across the board. But what's the craziest to me is that our housing prices, for the most part, are absolutely refusing to go down and get more affordable. They are absolutely refusing to go down with all this data right in the middle of it. I mean, even the article, what was the, you know, well, I forget what the article's name was, but home sales may fall to new, but why are the prices not going lower? Like, we should be seeing this already. Like, we should be seeing, instead of delistings, we should be seeing lower prices. But it's crazy that the 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 sellers or and the builders are keeping this price up. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Stubborn is one word I would put. I mean, let's go. I'm going to finish a little bit on this, and I want to come back. Don't let me forget that. What's happening? Why are they doing it? Why are they not moving? Is the question I want to answer in a minute. One major difference. Okay, so in many respects, the forecast suggests that this year's housing market will look similar to last year's, with affordability concerns weighing heavily on sales volume and national home prices growing at a sluggish pace. One major difference, however, is a significant increase in inventory in 25, particularly in the South and West. After years of tight supply, the number of active listings nationwide topped a million for the first time since late May, or since late 2019. But the anticipated bump in home sales that some expected to see alongside higher inventory has not materialized, with elevated mortgage rates and record high home prices keeping many prospective sidelined. Here's the I am did you read the article? Did you see the other day? I couldn't believe it. Pulte Holmes, you know who Pulte Holmes is, right? And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure that he's in the government now. I think Bill is an integral part of that. It used to be from 15 to 18%, or 15 to $18,000 would be the incentive level that a Pulte home would give out for a $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 home, something along those lines. That's how much of an incentive they would do. Well, they've upped that now for the same house to sell it. They've got to give an incentive of 50. In the article it said the average is $52,000. So if you're
Wow.
looking $52,000. So if you're looking to buy a house and new construction is something that you're considering, usually that's much more expensive per square foot, and I mean, it's off the rack pricing and stuff. But the article made me think that it's worth considering. Maybe you can look at something that's spec home. It's already built. You don't have to go through the build process, because that can be kind of daunting. That could be a long thing. But at some point, and I agree with you 100%. Why is the message not getting received on sellers lowering their price to get it sold? For the most part, I suggest that most sellers that are on the market these days have had their house for 8 or 10 years. I don't even know how to look that up, but there'd be some way to find out. I don't think anybody's holding up that price because they have to, like back in the day, where if we
Right.
go too low, it'd go underwater. I don't think anybody's in that kind of position. It has to be somebody's doing comps wrong for them, or they're looking at Zillow, which could. I'm begging you, don't do that. You'll be disappointed one way or the other, either up front or in the on the back. It's a hot market hangover. I mean, do you what? I know you were asking a question, but as you think it through, what other options do you come up with that they're not lowering prices?
I've read some articles about how the once the stock market was changing a little bit, with tariffs and just the economy stuff, that people were holding on to as much cash as possible. Like they were
Yeah,
holding on to as much money as possible. And so equity has, Americans have gained a lot of equity over the past, not the past few years, but before that, right?
outrageous. Yes.
So yeah, I think it's you call it the hot market hangover. I think that they just do not. They see that they've got the money. They see that whether it's Zillow or a realtor or whoever's telling them my house is worth $1 million now, whatever it is. I think they just want to hold on to that money, and and with the rates like it is, that they're not forced to do anything, or they don't want to do anything because it's obviously with a lot of people in the owns homes, they have a lot of equity and a good rate. So it, it's just crazy that we go to 1 million listings and we're going to see, and the rates are close to 7%, or they're high. They're very high for us. Um, that combination, that prices are holding their own. That's what it's like. We've got every indicator showing that our affordability should be getting better with these home prices, but they're not.
But they're not. And you know something else? It just occurred to me because I'm going through this with some just wonderful people right now. But we're going through, as buyers in this particular case, we're going through that. What is going on? You know, that mentality of I don't understand the market. Let me show you something. This is gonna freak. It's gonna flip you out. Part of the reason that home buyers and home sellers can get confused is that we're getting a mix. I know that's hard to read, but I'm going to point a couple of things out. That we're getting mixed messages from the market. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to try to change this. This is an area called West Haven that is a very premium area in Williamson County, and it's highly desirable, and this is the executive crowd. This is the luxury stuff. This is the I'm going to say wealthy, but I don't know if that's crude or whatever. But I mean, this is the high end stuff. And what I want you can't see it, but I'm going to point it out here. This is the DOM, days on market. That's what that is. There's 75 listings, and I bet you could probably do the research and tell me how many homes are in West Haven. I don't remember. It's several hundred, I'm sure. But 75 is like a lot of homes to have actively listed in West Haven. And out of the 75, there's 10 that's under contract. 10. But here's the mixed messages I'm talking about. When you look at the days on market, you got 14, you got 227 days. Oh, wait a minute. That's a new one. So I have to be careful. Don't get a new one. But 10 days, 51 days, 56 days, 182 days, 224 days. That's going to be a new one. 83 days, but 111 days, 69. Here's my point. We're getting, and on the other hand, there are homes that are listed and they're selling in one day. And so it's pretty easy. And because that's a small neighborhood, do you think that seller isn't watching the market and saying, "Hey, the guy down the street sold in 2 days. What's the matter with me?" So they're
Yeah.
thinking because it sold in one day, our price can't be that far off because the neighborhood. That's the way they'll phrase it. Their neighborhood is hot. Why isn't mine selling? It's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's a microcosm of our whole country right now. So, some of them are doing great, and some of them lingering on the market.
And the things, and I know I talk about this pretty much every week because it's behind the scenes, and that's why it's a little bit interesting. When you look at when we all look at headlines and we see these broad strokes about what's going on in the market and kind of that kind of stuff. That's different than if you're a buyer looking for a type of house in a particular price range in a specific locale. That's an entirely different situation than broad strokes across the country. And I mean to tell you that if your price range is, I'm going to make something up, between $500,000 and $600,000, and you're looking out in Hendersonville, going to make that because I don't have any clients up there, and you're looking at a particular neighborhood, and your options, you've got 7 to 8 houses or 12, 15 houses, making it all up to choose from. If you have 12 to 18 houses, what's happening with buyers now, and this is happening with one particular set of buyers, and they have every right to be, is that because the rates are what they are, people are being a little more selective. I'm not going to say picky, but they're selective in the house that they want. If I'm going to spend this kind of money, I want to buy a house, but doggone it, it's going to be the right one for me. And so people are saying no to things that in the old days you might go, it's okay. I can live with that for a minute. People are more selective. And again, they have every right to be. And until, this is my opinion, like Rodney says, until the sellers get the message and instead of delisting and hope, if they're looking for an increase in price, 2% per year is a pretty long wait. If that's how much it's going to grow, they're going to be hanging around for a while to get that extra $30,000, So that's it for the opening thing. I think you know what's going to be next. You know what's coming up, right? Right, you
I
do.
know what's coming up.
I think it's the riff. Rodney's riff.
All right, let's jump in here. I thought this was a good article. We could get some good content going on this one. Considering an ARM from credit union 5.87 versus 7.375%. Am I crazy? Pros versus cons. Please help. As the title says, we are offered a 5-1 ARM versus a traditional 30-year fixed. We are first-time home buyers with a $675 purchase price, $540 loan amount, 800 plus credit score, and 20% down payment. Just a few days ago, it was 6 and 6.75 respectively, but we were waiting on our offer to be accepted. We plan to live in this home for a long time and do not see ourselves paying off the loan significantly early. Okay. That's a pretty straightforward question. I will say that although they're in such a good position, I would highly doubt that they would keep this loan for a very long time. Just because loans in general don't last a long time, and especially with, I think, people that are more affluent. And I think these people, I don't want to say affluent, but they've got great credit. They're putting, 200 and something thousand or, 100 and something thousand down. So they've obviously saved money. They got good spending habits. So let's jump into this. The first thing about an ARM is I want to talk about is he talked about this being a 5-year ARM. I thought I read that somewhere. A 5-1 ARM, meaning
Yes.
what those numbers mean is that on the 5-1 ARM, the first number is the initial time your rate lasts. So whatever rate you get, it's going to last for 5 years. Okay. And then the second number in the one there, the 5-1, that's how often the rates changes after your locked in period.
Hmm.
So once you're locked in for 5 years. That's what that first number means, and then it's going to adjust every year after that. Okay. Um, there's a couple other things you need to know about an arm. They have margins and caps on what margins on what your rate is, and caps on what the rates can go to, up or down. So the margin and cap on this one typically are 2, 2, and 6. And what that means is the 226 is how much your rate can move on the first adjustment. Okay, so it can only go up or down 2% the first time it adjusts. The second number means how much it can move every time after the first adjustments. So in a 226, it can move 2 the first year, and then it can move at 2 at any point in time after that. So it's the same adjustment there. And then your cap is the one on the end, 226. So that means 6% would be the most your loan could adjust either way. And if you're starting out at 6%, 5.875, it could go. You may have they also may have a floor in there, but it could theoretically go down to 0. And then on the back side of that, the most it can go up is 6. So it'd be 11.87%. So that's the numbers on the rate. Okay. And the way I look at arm rates is, if I think you ever get in a position to be in an adjustable rate, in a declining rate environment, you may come out really, really well. And because if your rate is going down, if rates are going down, if you're in a downward rate, your interest rate will be going down as well. Instead of it going up every year, it'll be adjusting down every year. So I am all for, and let me run through some numbers on the difference here. The savings per month versus those two interest rates right there is $534 per month. Okay. And so it's about $6,400 a year and $32,000 over a 5-year period. So for me, right there alone, I'm going to say that saving $32,000 is too much to give up. One, I feel confident that in 5 years, I will have a time to refinance and put it on a more permanent thing, or potentially ride this 5-year arm out 7, 8, 9 years, depending on how much I can get out of it. With saving that much money, you're going to be able to refi, and the cost of refi would eat into that savings, but it's not going to be nowhere near the $32,000. So I think you're going to come out way better right now with a good arm product. I'm not much. Typically, I'm not much for arms, but if you give me this big of a spread in one, where it saves $32,000 over the life of a pretty short period of time, then I would personally take advantage of that. So, but let's jump in the comments, and let's kind of go through there. And the comments were pretty. The comments were, normally, this is the best part of the whole thing, is seeing some of these comments. But these comments were pretty passive and had some good points about the arm. So I didn't see any really crazy ones in there. So. People are starting asking questions. What is the recoup time on the cost of the arm? Guessing short with $530 a month savings. This was, it was a good way to kind of run some numbers and get in there. I guess this person couldn't run them, they say take the extra $530 a month and build up an emergency fund, and then to put the rest in your investments and make a greater return. That's a very, very, obviously a very great way of doing that there. some people wonder 90-16, 7.375 for a 30-year fix is not competitive. So, you never know somebody's situation. So I don't get into whether I can beat that rate today or not. 7.375 is high for a normal rate, but you never know the circumstances. So you never know. Didn't say what kind of property it was or nothing. So, but they did. The Warner pointed out that the rate could potentially be better there. Here's somebody just closed on a 7-1 arm through the local credit.
What's the name? What's the handle's name?
Cosmic Drifter 91. Actually, if their name's Cosmic Drifter, he could be just saying anything on this site. So, but no, it seems to be he's happy with his choice. And here's another one. Most 5-1 arms are structured 225 structured, so I assume yours as well. Those caps are 226 now. You have 5 years to refi, even if it's not much worse than 7.375. You're being offered. He goes on to say arm is a no-brainer. I think it's a very good choice. I don't know if I would say no-brainer, but anytime you save close to $32,000 or a little bit over, that's a really good option. Here's another one telling him the rates are too high. What is the maximum rate the arm can have, and how much can the rate adjust each time? Regardless, you're coming out ahead in the first 5 years, and likely at least 1 to 2 years after that as well. I like this person's question. They don't. That's why I went over it. They don't nobody understands arms very well. You got like I said, you got 5 different numbers that you're messing with in an arm, and that's not even counting the margin and index. So, that's as long as you understand what it is, I think they can be pretty good decision. Do the math. The interest rate goes up, say 9%. You could comfortably afford the loan, and at the moment, I would consider the arm with how much it would save in interest.
I'm lost.
Taco J.
Thank you.
See, it's here's OG Crashy. I would take the arm. Never say never, but we're likely to see lower rates before they go to 9%. And that's what I would feel. For me, I would feel really confident with an arm, because I just think the next 5 or 7 years we're probably going to see a downward rate environment. Just because I think this 7% where we're hovering at now, or 6.5, whatever it is, I think it may be the highest we ever see in our lifetime again. Because I just don't think 18% and all that stuff, it's a different world than it was back then. I don't think we're going to see mortgage rates that high. Everybody understands that right now our affordability issues are off the charts, and our rates are 7%. So I don't see them going much past this. I think everybody in the government and everybody would do everything they could to keep them down. So, but that's it for the Riff. I would heavily consider that arm.
That's really good stuff. When my second wife and I moved here to Brentwood from Colorado Springs, we actually, and that's a lifetime ago. It was 2005, but we elected to do an arm for a short period of time with that as well. And it at that particular time, if you remember what happened after 2005, rates kind of dropped a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we did okay with that. She's a very, very smart person. Thank you. That was an excellent riff. You're the best.
I believe my first house. No, it was the second house I bought was on an adjustable rate mortgage. And then I ended up turning it into a 15-year fixed, and then it was an investment property for several years. So yeah, it was. It served me very well. I did what, if you're ever able to catch an arm in a downward rate environment, you know.
Yeah, and that's where not only you're a nice person, you're a really smart person. And for anybody that has questions about arms and the value, just like what he was talking about, give Rodney a call, because I'm telling you, most of the time when I'm talking to the population out there, I'm usually the outside of getting pre-approved. I'm usually the first line of defense or the first contact when somebody's thinking about buying a house. Real estate agents are the first one. And when they talk about arms, most of the time, the comment is, that sounds too risky to me. I mean,
Right.
that's what it is. Because is there an element of risk? Well, yeah, but you can mitigate
Absolutely.
that. You can mitigate that risk by talking to guys like Ron. I'm saying this from personal experience. He really, really is he's a smart person and really a nice man. So it's not an ad, but I'm telling you, that's the way I feel. So
Yeah, it's more, the arms are more about education than they, as long as you understand them. Because somebody could say, well, it could go to 7%, I'm at 5.8 or whatever, and their first adjustment's 2, and that's after, so they got 60 months or 6 years there. And it could, so you really, if they're not for everybody, but and I don't recommend them all the time either. But save 32,000 in 5 years on a $500,000 house or $500,000 loan. That's a lot of money.
yeah,
$6,400 a year, Andy, probably covers your electricity bill for the year, or maybe even more. I mean,
uh,
that's you know buy this house and get free electricity for 5 years. That's about what that is.
that's great marketing. Look at this. Hey, look at this, man. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Look at that. I love that.
Oh, wow. Welcome to Tennessee.
Welcome to Tennessee.
Tell them pack a
That
cooler. It's hotter than Hades up here.
I am telling you, drink plenty of water. I shit you not. Sorry about that.
It's crazy, man.
Feed.
I love being outdoors and stuff, and on the weekends I like to get out and play a little golf. And it's so hot right now. I play golf, and I'm like, I change shirt just to go in the clubhouse. Go in the locker room, change shirt, just to eat lunch. And I'm so tired when I get home. It's crazy.
I think so. I think we know some people that have a driving range in their basement. Do we not?
we do, but man, I mean, I can't play out. You know what I'm saying? I don't get as much exercise. I need some exercise and out. I'm like a flower, Andy. I got to be outside and get the sunlight.
you you're like a flower, boy. That's
I am.
thanks everybody. It's a great show. Okay. Hey, I got some good news. Rodney brought this article, which is, did you want to cover this one?
No.
Okay. I thought this was interesting. And I'll tell you why this gets me juiced up. And after we get done with this, I want to make sure we hit this last one. It says, and this is good news for some people that are actually with us right now. The California housing market defies the U.S. slump. And here's kind of the bottom line. The alarm bells are ringing about the U.S. housing market, and the economists warn of slumping home sales and home prices, but those warnings may not apply in California. Bottom line, typically the U.S. housing market peaks in the spring. That did not happen this year. I'm telling you, that did not happen this year. But this year, it was tempered by a sagging stock market, uncertainty of the looming tariffs, all old news. Patrick Carlisle, chief market analyst for Compass Bay Area. Compass tends to handle the upper echelon housing. That's just what their market really is. Said despite a lot of economic uncertainty, much of the Bay Area specifically is bucking the trend of tumbling nationwide housing market. The South Bay is one of the strongest markets in the country. Maybe it's strongest because of the AI boom, which is that's gonna change everything. I'm just telling you. He said the concentration of wealth brought on by tech companies is helping the luxury sector perform particularly well. The Bay Area is still one of the richest, most educated, most diverse areas in the world. In the housing market, it has a tendency to continue to chug along. And I know the Bay Area isn't all of California. California is huge. It's the fifth largest economy countrywide, right? Isn't it? I think
It's something
California.
like that.
I mean,
Yes.
you compared to other countries, California's like number five. Big, big, big. But the home sales across California are flat year over year, according to the most recent report from California Association of Realtors. Boy, they're going through it. They put a lot of lawsuits. But median days on market have increased 33%, which can indicate a slower market. It's exactly what that tells you. The amount of unsold inventory has also increased 26% year over year to 3.8 months of supply. Rest of the country pushing 5 and 6 months, which is what they call typically a balanced market. It just depends. If you're in Florida and Texas and Tennessee, the days on market are really quite high. If you're up in the Northeast, I understand that's not the case. That's still a relatively low number. 6 months of supply or more typically defines a buyer market. But during the pandemic buying boom, buoyed by low interest rates, that figure dipped to as low as a month and a half. Remember when our average, our inventory absorption rate was like 1 month. We'd have 1 month. Houses wouldn't last. I'm telling you, it was
Yeah.
that cardboard sign in the yard.
Days on the market were 14, but that was a falsehood. It was more like 40 seconds.
Um, we were under contract, and and sometimes we would look at a house. First thing I would do is text the listing agent, "Hey, are there any offers?" And they were like, "6." There's, like, Jesus. If you want to get one in, it's got to be before 7 o'clock tonight. It was insane. There's more inventory on the market, and I'm getting to a point here. There is more inventory on the market, but in an inventory-starved state like California, that figure would have to be much higher to bring price relief. For sellers, of which who I'm talking to here, that's good news. I've got a good friend out there who I was part of a deal with a few years ago. His name is Kobe Costa, and he's a Compass guy, and he's in the LA area, Orange County, I guess it is, and he's doing these big deals. And I'm telling you now that he is not struggling. And if you're going to be selling a house in California, I have every instinct is telling me you're going to be in really good shape. Don't be afraid to price it right. I mean, there may be some days on market like they're talking about, but I'm suggesting to our California friends, you're going to be doing good. What that tells you is that real estate really is a local market. California always either leads or lags. Just seems like they lead, like in policies and stuff. Something will happen in California and it will drift its way across the country.
Fashion, car trends.
Music,
Yeah, I mean
housing styles. What
everything.
back
Yeah, I mean everything.
back in the 1980s? What I did, I was a house painting contractor. That's what I did for 10 years. I painted houses. And that was back in the 1980s, was when I lived in Colorado Springs at the time. And what we found was there was this one particular developer, and I still remember his name. He's dead now, but he went to California and he saw stucco. This is in 1980s. And he came back and he says, "Andy, I've got an idea." And he started building these stucco houses, spread like wildfire. I mean, that's Colorado. If
Yeah.
you looked at it, it was stucco homes, which is fairly common, I understand, out in California. So, did you have any thoughts on that particular article there, Rodney? Or did I?
Yeah, I was just I noticed that, it's you can't ever emphasize enough that real estate is local,
Mm,
right?
mm.
You could go to a different part of California and your days on market be 150 days or something. But I just thought it was interesting, and I've always thought the city of San Francisco was interesting because they have second most billionaires in the world, I think. In a if you the term billion is always thrown out. If you don't really know what $1 billion is, it's 1,000 $1 million. Like if you have $1 million, you need 1,000 of those to be a billionaire. Okay, so it's not 2 million, 10 million, 100 million. It's a
1,000,000,000.
freaking thousand times over is a billionaire.
Jesus.
So when you have 82 of them lurking around in a city, you think about 82 billionaires in a city like that. I mean, honestly, they could, just their don't, charity could probably fund the whole city. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just so much money. But I thought it was cool that in an area in a time where we are slumping. I mean, across the country, the mortgage applications and the purchases are at an all time low or close to it. Whatever, rates are high, prices are not going down, listings are going up, and AI is kicking off a little bit. And here's San Francisco with their 82 billionaires out there, and the prices over $5 million homes are doing well. You gotta like it. Only in
Absolutely.
America.
But it really does point things up. And you said it right at the very beginning that it's a local market. And I talk to people all the time. And that includes like Nashville. I mean, just because like Williamson County, it's slow compared to what we're used to. That's absolutely true. But it's still doing pretty good. I mean, we're still doing okay compared to 37013. That's probably not doing so good, out there in
Right.
some places. And I mean, there's different little pockets in this area because Nashville's not all that big. It's what 1.7 something. I think for the metro for the 11 counties, whatever it is, it's local, and that includes Davidson, Williamson, Summit,
Yeah.
Sumner, Wilson, those things. Here's what I wanted to. Here's this article, and I just thought it was a little bit risky that it has crash in there because I'm not a crash guy. I'm simply not. Let me blow this up a little bit. But what I liked about it, and I think that whoever wrote this probably wrote that with the word crash in there to get attention. But it says while investors every day While investors and everyday Americans wait for big bang housing collapse like 2008, the real damage is creeping in quietly. There's no explosive foreclosure wave, no Wall Street meltdown, but something more insidious is unfolding, a slow motion crash that's eroding wealth, blocking access to home ownership and freezing out a middle class of the American dream. That might be a little bit strong. I think it's being a little bit dramatic, but prices are still high, inventory is locked. New construction is slowing, and renters, they're stuck. This isn't a housing bubble, it's a housing gridlock. Let me get through this a little bit. And if you're waiting for some grand market reset, this I thought was particularly good. If you're waiting for some grand market reset to swoop in and fix it all, you'll likely be too late. What she's talking about, or what this person is talking about there, is when people talk about the crash, that's what they're talking about. That things are going to change over the weekend, not literally, but kind of, where it's everything's here and then it crashed and everybody's getting houses for cheap or free, right? That's what people are kind of praying for. So he calls it the gridlock economy, and all it just breaks it down. Everything we already know: home prices, median prices, or at or near all-time high. We get that. Home buyers, first-time home buyers today, in my opinion, are way better qualified than they were 10 years ago. I mean, the people that are buying houses now are locked, loaded, and ready to go. Is that accurate, Rodney?
Well, yeah. I mean, we can point back to that article we just talked about. He had a loan amount of $540,000, and it was a first time home buyer. So he's putting 20% down with that. So it's a $700,000 sales price for a first time home buyer. Yeah, so yeah, I mean,
And 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I don't even know what year it is. It's back in the 2012, whatever it is. We'd be talking about the housing fund, and we'd be talking about whatever, on the
it's
US.
hard to find something at 150,000. Yeah, I mean, or 200,000. It was hard to find a house like that. Now, yeah, I mean, now I've seen, I've had one of my friends buy one, and he's first time home buyer, 900,000, his first house, young
Yeah.
kid. I mean, it's just different world.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be the housing fund and asking for seller concessions. It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway, so to go on, I don't know how I got tripped up on that. Frozen supply. Existing homeowners with sub 4 mortgages aren't selling. Guilty. Builders are pulling back with rates high and consumer squeeze. Builders are slowing down starts, but as we mentioned before, they're offering not crazy incentives, but accelerated incentives. There's one company in town. I probably won't mention their name, but they're upper end. They seem to be a consortium of builders, really good company, and they are not shy about, because I wanted to work with them a few years ago. I had a client that was interested in their product. Well, I got on their mailing list, and we're getting bombarded with what they're offering. And then it says renters are trapped. Monthly rents are skyrocketing. Here's the middle. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but we all know this stuff. The middle class squeeze, affordability crisis, wage growth hasn't kept up, down payment gap. It's for those that are just toying with the idea of buying a house, that down payment can be kind of shocking. For somebody that's serious about it, they already know, 5, 10, 20% is reasonable. I'm going to ask you this. You don't have to answer. If there was I might have asked you before, but I'm going to ask it again. What is the average down payment that people come to you willing to pay? Not expecting, but willing ultimately to pay.
We're in a really good area, so 9 times out of 10, somebody usually has 20% to put down. Most of the time, we're just blessed to be in that area. Like if I was a couple counties over, then it's a little bit more rural, and
Yeah.
it's like every other city versus rural. Your sales prices and stuff are a little bit higher in your city or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I think we've mentioned it before, and it's not to sound boastful or anything, but Williamson County is one of the wealthiest counties in the nation, probably top 10. It could be top 20 by now. And it used to be the only one in the South. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Just don't know. I can't imagine that West Palm isn't, but I mean, that wasn't the numbers. So,
Yeah.
but Williamson County does pretty well. So, do we feel a little bit isolated, meaning insulated? Kind of, a little bit
Sure.
maybe.
I mean, we're not like San Francisco is, obviously, but we're definitely, we're in a great area. When you look at California and Colorado and a lot of those places, their loan amounts are off the charts and all that. We're not there, but it's we're still in a really good area.
Yeah, really
I
are.
mean,
So the whole point to this article, I thought it was really pretty good. It was a reality check. The real play, what to buy now, and this guy is saying, because we're in a market it's an unsettled market with prices crazy, everything that we already know. Here's what he said. I think it's a he. I don't know what the author said. It said, number one, focus on simple, functional properties, and this is taken from what I'm going to expect is that a buyer, when they're looking at the market trying to figure out what to buy, this is the advice you give. Focus on simple, functional properties. I couldn't agree more. The number of beds and baths with any growth that you might need, going to be expecting more children. You have to account for that. But focus on forget luxury flips or exotic Airbnbs. Think 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes in economically stable cities with long-term job growth. These are the backbone of American housing demand, and they always rent in this particular example. Buy and hold time in the market is a myth. It really is. Timing, you'll hear people talk about that all the time. It's not timing in the market, it's time on the market. Isn't that right? Isn't that what they say? But instead, buy assets that generate positive cash flow at time. Now, this is clearly about investors, but I still thought it was good. Use smart leverage. Inflationary environments, debt becomes cheaper in real terms. Choose the right markets. I thought this was good just for buyers in general. Not all cities are created equal. Look for stable growth, low property taxes, landlord friendly. It's a little more rental than I wanted. But the whole point is, what he's trying to explain is get to the basics and get what you need for your family long term. It used to be, And I think that we're back to that. When you're buying a house these days, wouldn't you say expect to stay 5 to 7 years now versus the way it used to be, or is that too far?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot different now because people actually stayed 5 to 7 years, but we're way past that for most people right now, or a lot longer, deeper into their mortgages than the 5 to 7 years, just because of the golden handcuff effect or lock-in effect, whatever. But uh, yeah, I mean that was our market several years ago, where people just moved around the city. Like, I want to move, 2 blocks over. There's a nicer house with a pool and closer to the school or whatever. It wasn't like this area. We just moved around a lot. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like one family might move three times in 10 or 11 years, and in the same school district. So
The other thing that I'm seeing differently and it's two things, and it's almost time to get out of here. Thank you, Rodney, for a wonderful day today. Um, Intent seems to be so different. And I know that um, for buyers, when they're looking at houses, the number of houses that I'm showing before we go to contract or even make an offer seems to be going up. It used to be where, I don't know what the average was, 6 or 7 houses, 8 houses. I mean, by the fifth, sixth, and seventh houses, you pretty much had your focus on. You knew what you were looking for, and if something
yeah,
qualified or if it didn't. But now, because sellers are being resistant on pricing, we're looking at more homes. People are saying no to a lot more houses, and I think it boils down to intent. I mean, I'm going to, like I said earlier, and I think this probably stands true. I'm ready to buy a house, but I'm going to be selective, and there's a difference being picky. That's
yeah,
being arbitrary. Being selective is I'm going to get what I want.
yeah.
Um,
And I mean, with the affordability, they should. I mean,
do you prefer sellers to have everything fixed in a house or like some things not done to make the buyer? This perfect. I'm going to do something here. We're going to do a sharp left turn, Rodney. Here is an article from Reddit, my favorite. I love this thing to answer your question, Angie. I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to be a little bit. I don't want to use the word for. I have my mind made up about that particular question. For any home seller that wants to gain maximum dollars, and you're in a great place to begin with, move in ready to give somebody the feeling that all they got to do is bring a bag of groceries in their suitcases and start living in their house. You will get the most money, period. You'll get the best offer for that house. I am without question, because when we're looking at houses, even recently, going through everything I'm talking about, the first thing they ask about, or they're trying to make a calculation on in their head, is the bedroom. In particular, West Haven, there's 2 forms of houses down there. Primary is down, but some houses have the primary master bedroom, from my vernacular. It's the master bedrooms in the front near the road, and others are the master bedrooms in the back near the garage. My people don't want the bedroom in the front. Makes sense to me. And when we go in a house, that's the first thing they're trying to figure out is structure. But the second thing, after we get past where the bedroom is and they like the structure, is they'll look at it. We'll all look at it, look around, and if it's like nice, we'll go, this is I could live here. That's what they'll say, and that's going to bring you the top dollar. Bringing that to this Reddit is selling my home as is. I have an offer on my townhome. We're in an as is contract, and that means by default, when that happens, that if there's something fixed, you can have an inspection, but don't ask the seller to fix anything. And that usually means there's no money to have it fixed, or it's just the seller has not been educated on what it takes to get top dollar, or just doesn't care. Airships can be that way. If you're selling grandma's house, that can happen a lot of times. They did an inspection, which I thought was just for their knowledge, which is accurate. and to make sure that they weren't any huge issues. They came back with a list of little things, some moderate things for me to take care of. And the point that I'm saying is, as is creates a lower price already. And it, bottom line, that's what it does, is it kills your bottom line. And whoever the person is was probably forced to ask for stuff to get fixed. Because if you're going in making an offer on an as is home, you've got to tell the buyer, we're not getting anything fixed. There's a caveat on that. If it's something big and you want to keep the ball moving forward, you can give them the opportunity to address it. But I wouldn't submit a list of stuff. You know, that's, oh, let's see. Okay, well, we're gonna have we're not have to worry about fixing something so the buyer has a. I how do I say this, Rodney?
I agree to disagree.
Yeah, I don't agree. If somebody's trying to negotiate, that means they're already in your pocket a little bit, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Exactly. I mean, negotiation for a seller means they're coming down.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. And this is easy as a buyer. It's if you switch from your seller hat to your buyer hat. Now, there's going to be discussions about what to fix and how much to spend on that. That needs to be more specific. But if it's everyday stuff, maintenance things, make sure that it's all fixed. But here's what I'm telling you, and I swear to God, this is the math, seller math. If you had to paint a house and you're the seller, it's $1,500, $2,500 to paint a house, seller math. If you're the buyer, that's a $12,000 paint job. I mean, the seller math and buyer math is way off, way different. And so just be aware, if somebody's allowed to negotiate, remember, what is allowed will continue. So if you allow negotiations, that ain't stopping until you're both wore out, You're nicer to me. I told her she was crazy and not okay. All right. I was a little concerned about that. So fix it up as nice as you can when you're looking for a house, unless you're specifically looking for, I'm going to call it a flip. I think that's a little exaggerated, but if you're looking for problems to give a lower bid on, lower offer, that's one thing. But if you're a buyer, 9 times out of 10, here's how they start. I could look at houses that need a little work, a little elbow grease, a little work. I could look at that, and we're like, yeah, okay. And we go out and we look at them. Oh, that's too much work, and they're wanting to lowball, effectively. But here's what they buy 9 out of 10 times, unless there's nothing else. Move in ready, and I'm telling you, a bag of groceries, couple of suitcases, setting up shop. That's what we all want, because if you have to fix something, you're not only getting a mortgage, you're paying money to get repairs, and who wants to do that? So I'll stop. I'll get off my soapbox. But I'm telling you, that's the way that I'm confident in that. Thank you for asking that question and let that turn out. And thanks for your advice, Rodney. I agree with this. Ange, thank you so much for coming by. I just love having you here. I can't wait for your family to send pictures. That Ocoee, I've been down that river. That's awesome. It's the drive down there. You're only 2 seconds away from Blue Ridge, Georgia, so you'll love that. Rodney, any final thoughts, man?
No, good show. I thought I had a lot of good stuff today.
Really good stuff. Your riff is pretty soon. It's just going to be the Rodney's riff. That's what it's going to be,
I hope
From the
not.
top. I love it. Everybody, hey, Ange, thanks a lot. For anybody that comes in later, if you want to get a hold of us to ask questions, you know what to do. The contact information is in the description box. Bye, Ange. See you. Rodney, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Where's the button? I don't know where my button is. There it is.